be an undercover narcotics officer. I've seen these happen. Thankfully, there are some good cops out there and chiefs of police and sheriffs who try to prevent these sort of things. But I'll tell you the bottom line. The police were far more criminal in this situation than the person they were raiding. There's a lot of questions about this that need to be answered, but none of them look good. And none of the potential answers look good for the police in this situation.
Well, the police got a search warrant to do this on the basis of an anonymous tip. Now, you know the law. You can't get a search warrant on the basis of an anonymous tip. You have to have other information. And they got the search warrant 8 days before they executed it. What could they have been doing in those 8 days to see if any drugs were going in and out of the house that was a lot less violent than this raid?
Well, you have to set up surveillance, and you have to verify the anonymous tip, even if it was a reliable informant that gave them the information. Even if it was a snitch for the police, you still have to verify the information. You can't just take people's word for it like that. And an anonymous tip, absolutely not. And you can't serve the warrant 8 days later without verifying other information.
Of course not.
You can't do it.
In fact, most warrants,
no way.
You and I are familiar with warrants because you applied for them and I granted them, though unhappily in 2 different states. It would have been nice to have worked with you.
Yes.
I've never seen a warrant that was open-ended. They always have a time period during which it must be served because the evidence on which the warrant is based can change. And you're not supposed to serve the warrant if the basis for it has changed with the passage of time.
That's the reason the 8 days is absolutely a horrible mistake by the police. They have to know you can't do it. They could have had other people in there. They could have rented the place out. They could have been gone and had relatives staying in there. You can't just rush in 8 days later and start shooting dogs and terrorizing little children. And these police, I think, seriously, Judge, I think some of these people are going to end up going to jail or being convicted of crimes themselves.
Well, they certainly
this thing is way out of line.
We had the mayor on the show. Now, he was not the mayor when this happened.
Correct.
And he argues that he is as much in opposition to this as you and I and the folks watching us now are in opposition to it. But when I said to him, when are these cops going to be arrested, he didn't want to answer. And I asked him the question a second time, and he still didn't want to answer. There clearly are federal civil rights violations. This clearly warrants at least an inquiry by a grand jury to see if indictments are merited. But taking a step back and just looking at the big picture, what has happened in law enforcement in America that we seem to be seeing the militarization of it to the point where even members of the military are offended when law enforcement is compared to their behavior?
Well, again, none of that should be sitting well with the people of America. And it's kind of the boys with toys thing. You know, if you give toys to these police boys, they're going to use them. Just like the incidents we've seen across America with tasers. Everybody wants their own SWAT team. So to justify the expense of getting a SWAT team, SWAT van, SWAT equipment, assault rifles, they have to use them. And so they go use them on mundane raids like this. This shouldn't even been a raid. That man should not have even been arrested. At the time, if they found a pipe with marijuana residue, that's a cite and release.
Right.
At best.
Right, because it's not for distribution. It's such a small amount, and it's the residue. It's not there that something that can be used again.
And in most places, that's not even like a traffic violation. And Missouri has, or that area has, a law about that that you can possess a small amount without going to jail.
When I was in law school and when you were in the police academy, the rule of thumb was that the police couldn't use deadly force unless it was necessary to repel deadly force against them. This looked like a military raid with deadly force. A taser is a deadly weapon. An M16 is a deadly weapon. A shotgun is a deadly weapon. How can they justify using this stuff on a homeowner and his 3 children and his dog?
They really can't, and that's why I think this is going to really blow up in their faces. Whoever okayed this raid and whoever the supervisor was at the scene, he's in trouble. And I mean, he's in really bad trouble. And this was blown from a supervisory standpoint, from a police standpoint, and from a law standpoint. These guys are in trouble.
When you go around the country speaking to police officials who have taken an oath always to uphold the Constitution, do you expect that if they were instructed to do something like we just watched, like happened in Columbia, Missouri, that they would refuse to do so?
I would hope so, Judge. Yes, absolutely. We're not a bunch of Nuremberg defenders here. We should know that following stupid orders and unlawful, unconstitutional orders is something we don't have to do and we shouldn't do. And we should be standing against any supervisor who tells us to go on such a raid. And these officers should have stood down and take a deep breath and say, you know what we're doing here is wrong. 8 days on an anonymous tip. Any first-grade law school student or any first-grade police academy student should have known this was wrong from the get-go.
I have called upon federal officials in Missouri, and I have called upon state and local officials in Missouri to arrest everyone who participated in this raid. And I am waiting, as are you, as are people who believe in the Constitution and human freedom, for that to happen. I suspect it will. I suspect they're taking their time, but I'm waiting for it to happen. Sheriff Mack, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Judge. I appreciate being with you and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. You can catch today's show on foxnews.com/freedomwatch and on Sirius 145, XM 168, or online at foxnewstalk.com at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. From New York, defending freedom. Until the next time, stay free, America.
Hi, my name is Clark Snell. I'm the managing director of the Now House Institute, which is a nonprofit dedicated to finding carbon neutral solutions for the built environment. What's the point of that? Basically, climate change. We are warming up the planet. That's the initial impetus, is going to be warmth, and then other things are going to happen. It is our fault, and it's our fault because humans' fault, because we are burning too many fossil fuels that put carbon into the atmosphere. It's pretty much that simple. So the solution is also very simple. We just need to stop burning fuels. The way we do that is becoming more efficient. So I'm standing in front of the Now House Institute's prototype carbon neutral building. One of the main components of this building is hempcrete. I'm standing in front of a hempcrete wall. What hempcrete is industrial hemp. The core of the stalk of an industrial hemp plant is called shiv. It's a woody fiber, and it's mixed with a lime-based binder to make an insulation material that you can build walls or roofs with. The reason that we're using it, and I think it's interesting in terms of the whole hemp debate, I think this is the best wall system in the world. So I'm all about hemp. I think hemp's an important thing to push because it's food, fiber, building material. But really, I'm choosing this material because it's the best in terms of building science. And why is that true? First of all, because this is what's often called a breathable wall system. And I don't mean breathable for air. We're actually building an airtight wall, but it's breathable for water. And why is that an advantage? Well, in a typical wall, you have a cavity that you seal tightly and then you fill with insulation. Well, water will get inside that cavity because water that's its job in the world. My body is 70% water. The surface of the planet, I think, is 70% water. It gets everywhere. It can climb uphill. It's through capillary action. It can dissolve any material. Anyway, so what we want to do in a building is create a wall that welcomes water but doesn't rot when it lets the water in, and that's exactly what hempcrete does. When humidity changes in the air outside, the wall can take on that extra humidity and hold it until the humidity drops outside, and then it'll let it back out. In the meantime, because the lime is wrapped around the cellulose won't rot. So therefore, we have a wall that can adjust naturally to humidity levels without rotting. That means that this wall will last a very long time. It also means that indoor air quality is going to be much improved. Now we're on the inside of the building. We were talking about the breathable qualities of hempcrete. This is a hempcrete wall with a scratch coat of earth plaster. This is actually a plaster that we made on site with just clay, subsoil, and sand we mixed together. This is another great quality of a hempcrete wall that we're able to plaster directly onto without plywoods, drywalls, laths, drainage planes. It's simply the material itself, the insulation itself can be plastered. That saves us a lot of steps, a lot of time and money, and also it allows us to create this breathable wall I was talking about. So now we have the hempcrete interior, which is permeable to water vapor, as I was saying, and then